Good afternoon or good morning, my brothers and sisters, colleagues. I speak as a church leader and as one who has endorsed the letter from the Christian LGBTQI community. I must say I was deeply moved by that letter, asking the church leaders to unmute ourselves and to speak up for and to stand by those who in their struggles for justice and dignity are having clearly such a difficult time, even in South Africa today. They do so because they face discrimination and rejection, and marginalization, and they face social death and, in too many cases, real physical death. It is a harrowing thought if one thinks about it, that our silence in this matter is so loud that they should ask us to unmute ourselves is a sobering and perhaps even a shameful thought. But they do because we are mute, and they do because we should unmute ourselves, and they do because they know and we know that the church can have a very strong voice in this regard. But I wonder why. Because as followers of Jesus, we follow the one who came to show us in the most perfect and also the most disturbing way God's radicalized, indivisible love, God's radical, indivisible justice, God's radical, indivisible solidarity, and God's radical, indivisible inclusivity. We follow the one who said, "When I am lifted up, I shall draw all unto me." All. No ifs, no buts, no perhapses, no excuses. All. And God has already lifted him up. This Jesus we are following on the mountainside when he blessed 9 times those who were sitting there listening to his words, and when he blessed all who would hear his words and act upon them. As you know, I come from the Reformed tradition, and my spiritual father, John Calvin, said an amazingly wonderful and at the same time shocking thing. He said, as we hear the cry of the oppressed and the poor and the marginalized and the downtrodden, keep in mind that that longing for justice in their hearts is a longing implanted there by God self. And then he goes on to say, in the cry that we hear God's cry. It is God who is crying on their behalf, because he says, if it is as if the Lord cries themselves when God hears their cries. And if that is true, God only not hears their cry, it means that God actually becomes the poor and the oppressed, the downtrodden and the excluded, like we do with the LGBTQI community. And so, in that sense, my conclusion is that God is not only hearing their cry, which we seemingly up until today have not heard. God now becomes the lesbians and the gays and the trans brothers and sisters. God becomes the bis. God becomes all those whom we do not see and whom we do not hear. We have to, if we are hearing God's voice, unmute ourselves. We have to, if we are followers of Jesus, speak up like Jesus, stand up like Jesus, stand with them like Jesus, so that we can be followers of that Jesus. I'm speaking to you because I know that the church in South Africa can do better. As we have heard the cry of the poor and the oppressed in our struggles for racial justice, so we must hear the cry of our brothers and sisters and all our communities in the LGBTQI groups so that we can stand by them. I hope that we will hear. I hope that we will unmute ourselves. I hope that we will follow. Thank you.